The heat is on in the fight for the 2018 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, and everything will be decided in the final round at the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia. After some stunning duels, battles and drama, it will surely be a fitting end to another awesome year, with the riders already having had a taste of the track this season and the form book teasing another classic contest. As we arrive in our second visit to the long, challenging and hot venue, it's Australian Billy van Erde who remains ahead. He became the first Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup race winner from Australia in the first round of the year at Qatar, and his second victory, that came at Sepang, where the youngster took a second in race 1 and victory in race 2 earlier in the year. It makes for good reading for Van Erde, whose key rival Haruki Noguchi has a deficit of 12 points as he fights for the cup, and the Japanese rider only took third place on their first visit to the track. This is it. 5 rounds and 10 races have been decided so far. Is Billy van Erde in the driving seat? Will he be crowned the 2018 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup champion in Sepang? Or can Noguchi bounce back? Or even the home hero Daniel Shariel stage a final stand? Hello, good afternoon and welcome to round 6 and the final round of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup for 2018. We're in Malaysia at the Sepang International Circuit, our second visit here so far this year. My name is Matt Dunn, alongside me is Fran Wild, bringing you the commentary for the first race of the weekend here. Of course, we are in conjunction with round 18 of the 2018 MotoGP World Championship, their penultimate stop, and this, for the Asia Talent Cup, is the perfect stage to showcase your talent for the future endeavours. Fran Wild, very warm welcome to the commentary box. What a race we should be having here this afternoon. It's going to be fireworks from the moment lights go out. There is a championship on the line here. Could Billy van Erde not only become, or he already is, the first Australian Asia Talent Cup race winner, can he also become the first ever Australian Asia Talent Cup champion?
Yeah, that will, well, that could be decided in this race right here. It all depends on how the cards are going to fall. And in these slightly tricky conditions that we've got here in Sepang, after, I'm sure you're aware, a very heavy afternoon of rain. So we'll see how it goes in terms of the track conditions. Obviously, it seemed to have a faller on the way around to the grid there to Shiki Sender. So they are pretty tricky out there, and obviously these guys haven't had much of a taste of them yet. So that will be very, very interesting in, like you say, this final showdown this weekend. The first race of which sees Van Erde with one chance at the crown. He's the only one that could win it today. And then we'll have to see how the results play out for race 2 tomorrow. And some wildlife on the track, I'm sure you're going to name it.
No, I'm not actually. In fact, the fauna of Southeast Asia does seem to escape me sometimes. But I guess
just sometimes.
Lovely, yeah, just sometimes. Every time, unfortunately. But yes, as you rightly say, Billy van Erde could get a chance at the title here, and it looked as though we did have some early drama on the way to the grid. To Shiki Sender, it seems to have crashed out on the warm-up, on the sighting laps, even on his way to the grid. So that is not good news for him one little bit. Here is Tachikon Boasi on your screens at the moment, the pole man here in the Asia Talent Cup for race 1 and of course for race 2 as well. Unlike last time, we did have back in Japan 2 qualifying sessions at 2 separate grid lineups for each race. Of course, he had Nakarin Atarat Puvapat giving him a pat on the shoulder and a little bit of encouragement before the number 5 gets going for racing today. He's missed out on the podium last time out in Japan. He finished inside the top 5 both times. He'll be annoyed a little bit about that. And another man who will be looking to get a victory on home soil, the man who has scored the whole shot in the last 4 4 consecutive races. Daniel Sharil, he takes off from second on the grid, does the number 21, and you'll see there, number 3 spot on the grid is currently missing. That is Toshiki Senda, the number 10, the Japanese rider who had an absolute nightmare of a Japanese Grand Prix round last time out, being involved within the with the crash of Haruki Noguchi. That really scuppered any chance he had of a podium in the first race as well. So hopefully he'll be able to make it round to the grid in time. I'm sure his team will be frantically trying to prepare something and getting the bike back and round to the grid. What a shame that would be to have him off that side of the grid, but that would leave Billy van Erde perhaps in position number 6 on the grid, completely clear track in front of him to fire it through round into the first corner.
Yeah, that could be quite an important thing for Van Erde now. Obviously, it's going to feel a little bit more like a front row start, although he's a fair way back off where Sender would have been on that front row. But yeah, it must be heartbreaking feeling, you know, when you've got such a good grid position and then that little mistake in conditions that really, these guys, a few of them obviously will have raced here before in similar conditions, I'm sure, and maybe a little bit more used to it if they're from some countries such as Thailand, maybe Malaysians, Indonesians. Quite typical weather there. But obviously they've not had a taste of this so far, and to have been caught out so early on, bit of a heartbreaker for Sender.
Yeah, very much so. We did see on our screens back there, that was Haruki Noguchi, the number 9, the man who could take, well, one of the 2 men who could take the championship away from Billy van Erde. Daniel Sharil is the other man who could do that, and how much would he love to do that in front of the home crowd here. Still plenty of people hanging around after MotoGP qualifying. Very patient they have been as well after that delayed qualifying session. Thank you very much to the downpour that we had just at the start of MotoGP Q1. And hopefully we'll be greeted with some top-notch racing. I'm sure the crowd will be behind their home man, Daniel Sharil, starting from second place. We'll have to see what happens. Will any of the riders be succumbing to the pressure? Obviously, Haruki Noguchi last time out in Japan did crash out in spectacular style, which really didn't do his championship chances too much good. Billy van Erde managed to capitalise on that, although he had a bit of a shocker in race 1. Couldn't quite catch that front group. Missed out on the top 5 in race 1, but really made up for it in race 2, pipping Hirama to the line right at the death of the race. Well, engines are starting. We're getting ready to go. Fran, time to place your bets. Who's your money on? That's a very, very bold question to ask in the Asia Talent Cup.
Well, I think definitely one man that is here to win it or bin it this weekend will be Daniel Sharil. Obviously, he is Malaysian, so racing at home. He's also had some really big success recently. You know, he was on the podium in Japan after having done the double at Chang International Circuit in Thailand. So he's now a winner. And you know, he does have something to lose in terms of the championship because he is still in it at the moment. So, you know, a DNF today would take that chance away, but he's also such a big deficit down. He needs to really crack on now. And if he's going to stay in this fight until tomorrow, he needs to really pull in some points today. So he will be one of the win-its and bin-its on the grid here. I'm not sure about Van Erde and Noguchi. I think it's going to be pretty interesting with the gap not that big between them, just 12 points. Incidentally, if you do have some stats handy from Moto3, it's the same that separates Martin and Bezzecchi. So that was made our lives a little bit easier with the maths there. But yeah, it should be a good race here. I think the types of contenders will be interesting to see if they are really keeping tabs on each other or if they're going to go and try and race their own race.
Yeah, and it does seem we do actually have that early drama. I've been keeping an eye on all the bikes as they come through, and I've been looking out for that number 10 of Toshiki Senda, and I can't see him. I don't think he has made the grid in time, and I don't think he is actually going to take part in this race. So that is huge drama for the Japanese rider. He'll be absolutely kicking himself for that. Fortunately, tomorrow he will get another crack at the whip. Of course, a little reminder for you, we do have a revised schedule for race day tomorrow. Be sure to check out MotoGP.com and all their social media platforms to see about that. And the Asia Talent Cup we should be following suit once the main Grand Prix classes have finished. There is Billy van Erde on his screens, as he typically does, sort of hangs back a little bit on these warm-up laps, just doesn't do anything too mad, too crazy, even though it is one hell of a long warm-up lap here. Well over 2 minutes. The times they were putting in during qualifying, and that was in the dry as far as I believe. 2:17 at 2:04 was the time set by Tachikon Boasi. who was set the pole position lap time. So a long lap, especially in these treacherous wet conditions as well. Some clear visors around there, lots of raindrops on those screens from the spray. It's going to be really tough conditions out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is going to be an interesting race. Noguchi will have a few bad memories of turn 1 at Sepang as well, which is where he made an absolute clanger first visit here this year and crashed out turn 1, got the whole shot but massively overcooked it. Really low drama crash, just slid out, but unfortunately it was game over and he wasn't able to get back in the race. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because Van Erde obviously has the exact opposite and got some great memories from here, a couple of great races for him. But it does look pretty wet out there around most of the track, so you have to keep an eye on who's brave in the early stages and then see how they all get ready to go the race distance and who gets a little bit more confident maybe as they get to grips more with the conditions.
Yeah, so a little bit of a reminder, we have Boasi leading the front row from Daniel Sharrow, and there's an empty spot on place number 3 where Toshiki Sendo was supposed to be. Leading the second row, we have Sho Nishimura, followed by Haruki Noguchi and Billy Van Erde, the main championship contenders here. Sharrow just in front of them, he's already lined up on spot number 2. The man with the red flag is at the front of the grid. Everybody lined up on the correct spot. That gap at spot number 3 missing there. Billy Van Erde, the biggest race of his life, coming up right about now. The lights are going to go on as soon as the man with the red flag leaves the grid. The green flag waves at the back of it, and the lights are about to go on. This will be the penultimate race of the 2018 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. The lights are on. And they go out, and we are racing here. Will Daniel Sharrow get the whole shot for the 5th time in a row in front of the home crowd here? We're not long till we find out, but it's a long drag all the way down to turn 1. He is going to get it. He dives up the inside of Tachiko and Boasi with an audacious move, and there's all sorts of lines going down into turn 1 at the moment. But at the moment, heading into turn 2, they are all safely through. Very easy, taking it somewhat steady through there in these treacherous conditions. A bit of switching in the background there, and we're already round towards turn 3. No casualties as yet.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, although it looks very slow out there, that they all got round those first few corners really cleanly. Like you say, pretty nervous, but yeah, good to see they've all managed to keep it in control this time. No early heartbreak for these guys, and especially not for our few title contenders. The first of which at the moment is Sharrow, who, like you say, 5th whole shot in a row for the Malaysian, and on home turf now must taste even better.
Yeah, it tastes very good indeed. Sho Nishimura, the number 3, has blasted through from 4th position up to 3rd. Just the one place he's taken at the moment. Hendriantia, the Indonesian rider, just behind him. He qualified 7th on the grid. I'm looking out for other little Malaysian hotshot, Mario Aji, the number 7 at the moment. I think he's dropped back a fair bit. He's had a real tough few rounds. He's actually pretty much put himself out of this championship fight, been displaced by Daniel Sharrow after an absolute barnstorming Thailand round around about a month ago. Mario Aji is just in the background there. He's coming down into turn 9. He's all the way up the inside of the number 16 there. That was Adinanta Putra, the other Indonesian rider, and he just easily slots it up the inside there. Daniel Sharrow maintains the lead at the moment.
Yeah, like you said, it is Aji who looked like he was going to be one of those 3 meant to beat this season. Then it's all fallen apart a little bit for the Indonesian in the last few races. So I have to see what he can do today. Now, you know, obviously the negative point, he's now out of cup contention, so won't be able to win it. But the positive of that is that at least he doesn't have too much pressure. So he can just go out there, guns blazing, and see how the cards play for him. But at the moment, no one's really made that much of a breakaway. I'm a little bit surprised. I thought maybe initially you'd get 1 or 2 willing to push those limits a little bit more and see if they could really capitalise. But everyone fairly holding station at the moment in a front group in their classic style. So we'll have to see how this is going to play out once they all get to grips a little bit better with the conditions. Now down into this final corner. And everyone's still pretty much line astern, all nice and calm, but still not pushing too hard to the limits, I don't think.
Of course, very tricky indeed. That final corner, turn 15, we're about to come across the finish line for the first time here in Sepang. They're hugging that pit wall very closely indeed. They'll be swiping across to the other side of the track to go under braking there, and it looks like Aji, the number 7, is making an audacious move. He's going to go out the inside of Munandar there. Very careful down into turn 1. It's super slippery. It's one of the real danger points. The corner before it, turn 15, the ultimate turn that we have, equally as treacherous in these sorts of conditions, not least because it's since the resurfacing here, it's a little bit off camber now as well. Lots of people being caught out there throughout the Grand Prix classes that we've had here this weekend.
Yeah, it's a really interesting final corner now here at Sepang. Like you say, adverse camber for most of it, and it's designed basically to create a few different lines through there that will all be roughly the same kind of lap time to really increase, you know, overtaking opportunities or different riding styles able to make the most of it. So it has created some spectacular moments so far, and for these guys, I am very sure they will make the most of that again. We had the Cup go down to that very corner last season, so it could well do that again this year, but we'll have to wait and see a little bit longer. But at the moment, Cheryl then, not seemingly wanting to push too hard and really break away from these guys. They are using quite a lot of curb, though. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, Matt. They really are not staying away and being too shy from those white lines and curves, as you can see there from the onboard of Noguchi. Maverick Vinales was doing that earlier on in MotoGP qualifying, but it didn't pay off too well for the Spaniard. Ooh, not much space in there for Noguchi, just having to back it up. But it looks like Aji has finally made that audacious move that we almost saw before and he backed out of.
Yes, we do have an Indonesian leading the way now in the Asia Talent Cup. Finally a change of the lead. Everybody else has been watching the Malaysian Daniel Sharon. Who was that in the background? That was Putra, who just had a big twitch coming around there. Although, yes, Mario Aji has decided he's going to go into the lead, but he's just had a huge moment out the sea and has nearly catapulted himself into oblivion there. Daniel Sharon and Munandar both overtake him once again. He's back into third now. That was just a little bit too keen from the Indonesian, who's making his way through the pack with a lot of ease on this second lap. Came across Daniel Sharon, thought, thank you very much, Sunshine, I'm going to take the lead from here, and nearly paid the ultimate price for it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's pretty lucky there that there's enough grip just cutting that corner to be able to keep it upright, and didn't actually lose out too much, but didn't gain either, so I don't think there'd be any trouble from race direction in terms of obviously having cut that track a little bit. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see now if he's still that confident coming through the next few corners and for the next couple of laps, because that must have been a real heart-in-mouth moment for him.
Well, it's lucky 13, Hendry Ansia's gain there, as Mario Aji lost all sorts of drive in that final sector. Hendry Ansia, the number 13, has moved up to the inside. Mario Aji just guarding his line there down into turn 1, but keeping a very close eye as we're going to get a replay now of what happened to Aji. We didn't quite catch the entire ordeal, but just there he had an absolutely huge moment. I'm pretty sure that is as big a moment as you are ever likely to get on one of these smaller Moto3 Honda machines.
Yeah, definitely, and it was really good as well. You could see those guys who'd seen that moment were pretty aware where he was going to be forced to rejoin the track. Obviously not much choice there with the runoff and the curbs and everything, but to sort of straight line it and hope for the best, and they managed to stay well out of his way. So that's a good one, and it looks like Munandar has decided he wants to have a go out front, which is pretty brave in these conditions. Quite often you do get a few guys who are more willing to let someone else test them out, but then of course you do get the downside of more spray. So that's Koji Harama, another Japanese rider out of this final showdown, well, first race of this final showdown. Unfortunately, are we going to get a replay maybe of what happened to him?
Yeah, this is, that is a nasty little high side. Very, very uncomfortable indeed, right on his shoulder. Unfortunately, he is up and walking away. Didn't look in too much pain, but that is the man who just nearly got on the podium last time out in Motegi. Billy Van Erde just pipped him to the line, I think it was. We just saw there, was that lucky Hendry Anser just having another little twitch just on the exit of that corner there. We're into the final sector again. All sorts of lines going in there. Mario Aji has recovered fairly well now. He's taken Daniel Shariel up the inside, and his small frame tucking into the slipstream neck. Someone else is down at the moment. Is that Munandar? Oh dear, Afritza Munandar, the Indonesian, who we saw just leading not long ago, has crashed out. He did this last time in Japan. He was, of course, the man who triggered the enormous crash crash we had out of the final turn, and he has gone down out of this race. What a disaster for the Indonesian.
Yeah, it's been an expensive couple of minutes there for a couple of guys, hasn't it? Both look up and okay, which is obviously the main thing, but Mananda definitely one of those riders who has shown so much pace and promise this season and then just not been able to make it happen on race day. Too many crashes for the Indonesian, but then again, they always say you can't teach someone to be fast, but you can teach a fast rider to stop crashing. So, you know, he knows what he needs to focus on, maybe just a little bit more calm on race day and keep it together. But like we said, both up and okay, and yeah, just one less in this leading group now. There's a little bit of daylight, they're just starting to space out a little bit, but with these kind of conditions, that can change corner by corner. So I think this is still a front group pretty much, and we still very much have our title protagonists in this fight. So there we go. Just as I say that, we've got Noguchi heading past Van Erder. He's been behind the Australian for a little while, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. He's got, you know, not as many cars to play with as Van Erder. Obviously, Van Erder can take a few less risks, having the advantage. But Noguchi doesn't have the luxury of just watching what the Australian does and sticking with him. He's got to gain some points today if he really wants to put himself into contention for tomorrow.
Yeah, I was keeping a close eye on them just at the back of this leading group that we have, which is a little bit being split into two or so. Haruki Noguchi was stalking Van Erder, just like, well, a bird of prey or some form of predatory creature, just keeping a very, very close eye on him and what he's up to, making sure he's not getting too far away. He has got a real opportunity here to bring back a points haul on Van Erder. There he is on your screens at the moment, just keeping it very, very tight, neat. Although commentator's curse, I don't want to jinx him completely at the moment.
Yeah, it's always best to stay away from that a little bit. So we've got, it says now on the timing screen there, yep, and we see on the screen that Aji has now taken back the lead. So that's good news. He seems to have recovered from that heart-in-mouth moment a couple of laps ago, and a little bit of a interesting moment there in the braking zone for Matsuyama, but got it all collected together. So there's a few names who maybe we don't always expect to be fighting for the victory near the top of the timesheets at the moment. Hendriantia, Putra, you know, they've been showing some good form recently, but nothing quite to rival the likes of Shariul, Noguchi, Van Erder and Aji. So yeah, Van Erder at the moment just slipped a couple of places behind Noguchi now. He's in 8th and Noguchi's 6th. But like we said, the Australian has 12 points in his pocket to play with, so he can afford to take a little bit less risk maybe.
Yes, the fortunate thing is in the Asia Talent Cup, we have a long straights there with plenty of opportunity for slipstreams to take effect. Mario Aji does have a little bit of a gap and bit of breathing space at the moment, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get too far away, although that is a lot of bike lengths there. But without anybody alongside him, he doesn't really have much of a reference of where to brake, and these conditions are very treacherous indeed. Took a very wide exit there, getting on the gas very, very early. His fellow Indonesian rider not want to get away. Haruki Noguchi had a very, very different line on the exit of turn 15 there. He was off the grass, off the curb, nearly found himself in a bit of trouble there, and that would have been completely in the view of Billy Van Erder, who might himself be thinking to himself now, well, maybe Haruki Noguchi is a little bit rattled. He has to make a big points haul if he wants any chance of taking this championship title now, so he needs to be very, very careful indeed. 7 laps to go. This is a long race ahead, and it's got a long way to go before we get any sort of conclusions.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said a little bit earlier in the broadcast, it is a very long lap at Sepang, and it's even longer when it's wet. So we've got about 2.5-minute lap times and 7 laps to go. There's a fair way left in this race. So Aji setting the fastest lap, so he's obviously calmed down an awful lot since that moment. Like we said, regrouped, probably figured out what was the problem, and now seems to be trying to make a bit of a break. So at the moment, just under a second clear, but like we said, in these conditions, it can change pretty fast. So all is not lost for those chasing him, but it will be interesting to see how they react now. Are they willing to push that little bit over their limit maybe at the moment and see if they can stay with him, or just going to play it a little bit safer? The likes of Shariul, obviously, like you said, should hopefully be in a bit more of a winner or bin it mentality, and we'll see all guns blazing from the Malaysian here on home turf.
Yes, this leading group goes all the way back to 9th place or so. You've got Matsuyama just in the background there, the double winner from last time out in Japan, the man who clearly loves racing at home. So you see Van Erder going nearly up the inside of Haruki Noguchi there. I thought he was going to hit the back of him. He was looking all sorts of squirrely under braking down into turn 9 there. Fortunately, he managed to keep it completely upright. I don't actually think that was turn 9. That was a little bit later on or so. Actually, it was turn 9. Yes, it was at the end of the sort of minor back straight that we have there, I believe it was. As we see him going up the inside of Noguchi, he gets the door completely slammed shut in front of him yet again, though.
Yeah, like you said, it looked like maybe that was a little bit too close to comfort. I think the perspective is always so difficult to tell on those head-on cameras when you're looking at the incident from that angle. You really can't tell. Are they 6 inches apart, 6 feet apart? It can look really close, and then when you see it from the side, it's like, oh, actually, it was okay. But definitely, I'm sure Billy van Aerde had taken a few deep breaths after that, because I think there would be no worse way to win it than accidentally crashing out your biggest rival. You'll want to win it in the style that he's competed.
He's just completely pushed him wide there into the final turn, and he's taken him up the inside, although Noguchi's going to get a bit of a good drive there. That was a bit of a naughty move, although I'm not sure how much of that was completely in control. Under braking there, very, very treacherous indeed. It looks like Daniel Sharrell has managed to catch Mario Aji. Has he overtaken him on the run down to turn 1? He has indeed. We have the Malaysian back out in front again, and there's Bill van Aerde. He's moved up to 6th place now. That was the fastest lap of the race as well, with 6 laps to go now. Van Aerde, the man, the previous fastest lap was 2:35. Van Aerde's just set a 2:34. So he is absolutely on it with that pace. He's really found something. Noguchi has even more work to do now. 6 laps to go. We're coming up to around about halfway through this penultimate race of the 2018 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup.
Yeah, Van Aerde loved to prove me wrong there, didn't he? But to be fair, these guys have had a few close calls this season. Obviously, that final corner in Buriram when Noguchi was absolutely brutal on the brakes and they both almost headed into pit lane. So maybe a bit of payback in a very nice, you know, fair, competitive way, but I'm sure Van Aerde will not be nervous of repaying the favour, since it is such a tight competition between them. You know, Noguchi's laid down those rules, now he's got to play by them a little bit, but good. No one's had any more moments for a couple of laps now. Maybe the conditions are slightly improving again. We don't think we've had any more rain.
We had a bit of faller out of towards the lead. That was Putra. What were you saying, Fran? And not had many moments for a little while.
Oh,
Putra has crashed out of podium contention. What a disaster, and that lifts these two up yet again up the order. That means Van Aerde, though, he's up into 5th place now. We're just waiting for our timing screens to just about adjust to Putra crashing out of the race. What a disaster that is for the Indonesians.
Such apologies to Adananta Putra. That is terrible timing on my part. Obviously, commentator's curse. Good to see. He looks maybe a little bit bruised from that, but up and fairly okay. Again, a bit of heartbreak for him, going so well in this race, really in that fight for the win. But it's so easy to do in these conditions, and even more so if they are improving a bit, it might even go the opposite way and they might get lulled into a bit of a false sense of security. But like I said earlier, they are not shy from using those curbs and the white lines. So, you know, this Sepang circuit is designed to have very, very good grip in the wet, and we've seen that largely so far. But maybe
that doesn't mean it's impossible to crash.
Yeah,
though,
exactly. You need to still pay very good attention to the conditions and how they're improving, or maybe not improving quite as much as some people think.
Yeah, well, it looks like he was maybe perhaps the only man who could really run the pace at this mid-stage of the race with your leaders, Daniel Sharrell and Mario Aji. Super Mario there just sticking a little bit behind Sharrell, although he's lost a fair bit of ground on that section. But we're keeping an eye on the guys behind them. Nishimura making a move for 3rd place on Lucky Hendriancia, and also Billy van Aerde and Noguchi. The championship fight raging on behind them, currently for 5th position. But if they get a bit too involved, they're going to really miss out on a potential final podium spot. We're now on the run down to turn 3, 5 laps to go. We're well and truly past the halfway stage in this race, and this is Noguchi who's looking up the inside of Van Aerde. Can he get a little bit of a slipstream effect and outbrake him down into turn 4? No, he's not. Van Aerde supreme on the brakes into this very tight right-hander now.
Yeah, you can see a tiny little twitch from the Australian there from the onboard, and Haruki Noguchi obviously a little bit tempted to try and take advantage of that straight away, but now seems a little bit more content to maybe stalk him, put that pressure on the Australian. If he doesn't think he's got the pace to really charge to the front and win this race, maybe his best bet is to try and, you know, intimidate's probably a bit of a harsh word, but, you know, Valentino Rossi old school style, pile on that pressure and see if your rival can take it.
Yes, and this is all sorts of what gets taught in the Asia Talent Cup. This is a Road to MotoGP program. You've got to learn all sorts here. It's not just about who can win the races, get the podium spots, it's who can learn the most, develop their riding, and perhaps even get a spot on a Grand Prix grid in the future. Daniel Sharrow, though, had a little bit of twitch there, and it looks as though Mario Aggi has managed to catch up in these sort of mid-sectors of the track. He's right on his tail now as we come round towards turn 11. Another very tight right-hander. Is it going to be a short squirt down to turn 12 now, where we saw Aggi have that huge moment earlier on?
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine Mario Aggi is probably holding his breath a little bit just in that change of direction there to make sure he doesn't repeat that. But these two seem to have a little bit of pace on the other guys at the moment, although Nishimura is definitely not out of it at all. But this fight here, you can see Van Erde and Noguchi have gained a little bit on Hendriantia, but they need to be careful because that podium battle is just getting that little bit further away lap by lap.
Van Erde there just adjusting his visor, making sure it doesn't get too fogged up. It actually looks like Hendriantia completely fallen into the clutches of the championship contenders. Nishimura's completely managed to escape him. Does he have the pace to maybe close the gap up to the riders ahead of him, Daniel Sharrow and Mario Aggi? And Billy Van Erde has managed to dispatch Hendriantia now. It's up to Noguchi to see if he can do the same. Still very, very wet down that front straight. As they go on the run down towards turn 1. Noguchi a little bit delayed his reaction there, trying to follow the slipstream. Nishimura, is he going to be making ground on them? He's currently got a 1.2 second gap up to Mario Aggi, who in turn was 0.7 in lieu of Daniel Sharrow ahead of him at the end of that lap. Clearly, Mario Aggi running very well in these sort of first, second sector, but loses out in that final one. Yeah,
definitely. It looks like Nishimura, the gap's fairly similar. I think it's quite surprising when you look at the timing screen versus the distance it seems like on track, that it is so much. But obviously, you know, he is getting closer and closer to these guys now. Seem to have really lost out there. And that gap between first and second is extended a little bit as well. So,
who is that down at the moment? That is Naoki Yamada, who has gone down. So not one of the front runners. I did get a little bit worried there seeing a blue helmet. I thought, oh no, is that Mario Aggi? But thankfully not. This is a replay of what happened with the crash here. Just a little high side coming out of turn 1. Bit too much gas with a little bit too much lean angle on the switch over to turn 2. Easily done, I guess, in that sort of section. Very treacherous.
Yeah, definitely. You know when a replay starts like that and everyone's hit the apex okay, that it's probably going to be a high side on the exit and you already start wincing a little bit. But luckily Yamada looked like he was up and okay, which is the main thing. But again, quite a few guys with broken hearts in these tough conditions and looking to make more of a mark on race 2 tomorrow, I'm sure.
Well, we did talk about it back in Thailand where Daniel Sharrow managed to get the double, his first ever wins in the Asia Talent Cup. We did wonder whether he'd be able to do the same here in Sepang. How would he be spurred on by the thought of winning at home? And I tell you what, that is bringing him all the way to the line at the moment. He is keeping that gap ahead of Mario Aggi, which has maintained itself at about that 0.7 second mark. But look who's coming not too far behind them. Sho Nishimura, the other Japanese rider, closing in every corner on Mario Aggi. He's now going to be in his slipstream. Mario Aggi just a little bit further out from him. Who's that, number 17? That's Seng Zawang, who has gone down. The other Thai rider, he has crashed out of this race as well. He's up and okay, thankfully. It's another high side though, Fran. They need to be very, very careful. And that is a big high side right there. Very painful little impact there on his left ankle. Thank goodness he's up and managed to walk away from that.
Yeah, definitely. And not sure how that affected the guys behind either. Looked like that avoiding action might have sent someone onto the runoff. But yeah, few high sides there. I think that says that they need to learn a little bit more about the corner exit and maybe just be a little bit calmer, feeding that gas in. But, you know, these guys are pretty full gas most of the time. So, you know, maybe it is to be expected in some ways. But like I said, main thing, everyone seems okay so far. Just a few bruised bodies and egos, I imagine, a little bit from some of these. It's such a, you know, it's such an easy thing to do, and then obviously the consequences are so big because you're very unlikely to be able to restart after a high side. So, bit of a tough day for those guys.
With Lucky Hendriansia not so lucky today, the 13, he has dropped off the back of these groups. At the front, that's left Bill Van Erde and Haruki Noguchi to battle it out for 4th position here. And they're not actually too far behind Sho Nishimura at the moment. I wouldn't say that's quite out of reach with a 2.5 second lap. We are about to have 2.5 laps to go or so. That's a fairly large, substantial amount of time for these two to put in some inroads onto the guys ahead of them, maybe battle for the podium spot. And here's going to be a live championship standing on your screens at the moment. If this... oh, Billy Van Erde has gone down! I was just about to say he is 14 points ahead of Haruki Noguchi, and he has succumbed to the pressure. He has lost the front end heading into the right-hander, and this championship will roll on until tomorrow. That is enormous drama. He lost that so early, Fran.
Yes, so early, and heartbreak for the Australian. You can see there he's just wasting a couple of seconds there, obviously being pretty mad about it, but then trying to get restarted. I think it's going to be game over for this race, though. See it snap so quickly, nothing he could do about that. Absolutely instantaneous. And yeah, like you say, huge drama in the title fight. That now it's all on Noguchi to see if he can keep it together.
He will be absolutely kicking himself at that. He had the opportunity, and it will not happen today for Bill Van Erde. What drama that is. Haruki Noguchi can frankly, well, it depends what he wants to do now. Where's his head at? Does he want to just sit back and see what can happen tomorrow? Does he want to keep that 4th position? Does he want to push on? Maybe even make a mistake of his own if he's not too careful. The podium is not far ahead of him. How confident is he feeling? How much more inroads does he want to make on Bill Van Erde's championship lead?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, it's 12 points going into that race. If Noguchi takes 4th, he takes 13 points, which would put him 1 ahead going into the final race tomorrow.
That is absolute drama. And also, Fran, compliments to you. Very quick match there. I was trying to do it in my head whilst I was talking, and there's no chance of it whatsoever. A disaster for that. Could this be a defining moment in the championship? That was massive. We are now 2 laps to go. We're at turn 1 and turn 2 again. These riders are just catching up with each other. Lucky Hendriansen not too far behind Haruki Noguchi. He will not want to let him pass at all at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. That gap looks a little bit smaller. You know, it may have unsettled Noguchi as well. Obviously, he knows he's got a lot to gain. But if he is just, you know, trying to... I'm not sure if that's quite right, to be honest. He's in 4th. But anyway, yeah. If he is going to settle for that 4th place, he does have to be careful that he doesn't let it go too much and get too relaxed and just let the guys behind him catch him, because especially Hendriansen got nothing to say in this title fight, and he will definitely try and move if he gets close enough. Yeah,
the Indonesian, this is as close to a home race as he's ever going to get at the moment, as Bill Van Erde has rejoined. He's coming down the home straight. That will be why then we thought the live championship standings were wrong, but Bill Van Erde is currently 12th position. He will get a couple of points if he finishes this race. His machine has got to stay intact. It was spitting out gravel, so this man is fighting for his championship. He's currently, if he stays in this position, if it all stays square like this, everybody stays upright, which is a bit of a tall order for some of these races occasionally. Bill Van Erde will go into tomorrow's race with a 3-point lead, but look at this, it's about to get very spicy indeed in the battle for first. Sho Nishimura, I did talk about it, he has been catching these guys, Daniel Shariel and Mario Aggi ahead of him, very slowly and steadily, not doing anything too silly. Famous last words, I know, but it's not far now before we head on to this final lap. There's gonna be fireworks.
Yeah, definitely. Apologies, I did not think about the restarting there for Van Erde. Obviously was managing to get back on track, and obviously still managing to compete as well. So, moment for Noguchi as well.
Massive moment there.
Wow, a massive moment. More than just a Marquez twitch, is that?
Yeah, that is...
really out the seat for the Japanese rider. So here we have a bit of a war now at the front then, as we're coming onto the final lap pretty soon, and everything to play for. Obviously as well, it could really play into Noguchi's hands if these guys battle, or even if they end up going a little bit wide or are having an issue.
Well, 1 lap to go then of the penultimate race in the Asia Talent Cup, and then Sho Nishimura has taken Super Mario up the inside down into turn 15 to claim that second place. But Mario Aji is not going to go an entire lap, letting him have that. Haruki Noguchi holds firm in 4th place at the moment. It does seem this championship battle is going to go all the way to the wire. Hendry Ancia, number 13, lucky, is not too far behind him in 5th place at the moment. Could the race be wrapped up in terms of the win, though? It is still a battle for first. It is not quite out of reach. Sho Nishimura looks as though he might have dispatched Mario Aji in that first sector. He was really, really quick through there, but is the hunt on too late to catch Daniel Sharrell, the Malaysian rider, ahead of him?
Yeah, definitely. He's really pulled the pin now, hasn't he, Nishimura, on an absolute charge. But I think Sharrell also is perfectly aware this has to be the lap of his life to take this home win. So he'll definitely be pushing to the absolute limit as well. These three now are well out of the reach of Noguchi, so I think for the Japanese rider, unless there's some serious drama ahead of him, it's not going to be that big a gain, you know. It's not all over for Van Erde by any means. But not sure when Lucky Hendrians has gone in the back of the picture there. Maybe he's just had a bit of a moment if he's been pushing too far. But we can see someone else tumbling down the timing screens as well now. I'm not sure if that's been... because he's, I think, Troy Alberto, if he's been overtaken by a couple of people or had his own incident. But Sharrell keeping it pretty pinned at the moment at the front. So looks like it's going to take some serious...
Haruki Noguchi has
one.
Another moment there. That is on the outside of turn 9. He needs to be so careful. He cannot afford moves like that. He needs this 4th position to keep the championship hopes alive. We're in the final sector of this final lap now, and this is getting very, very tense indeed. I'm not sure I was quite ready for this after the weekend we've had at the moment. Van Erde, though, he really needs his 4th position, does Noguchi, because Van Erde has dispatched Troy Alberto, moved up to 11th. This is on the run down to the final corner now.
Yeah, definitely. It's all going to go off here, I think, with these three. But yeah, Van Erde, Troy Alberto's obviously had some sort of issue, and Van Erde's now through on him for 11th. So that's a good few points. And now here it's going to be an attack from Sho Nishimura. He's going down the inside. Can he get it stopped? Sharrell, trying to pull the Dobby there for the Malaysian, but he's not quite pulled it off. Now it's all going to be the
inside. Is he actually going to get it though, Fran?
Now it's going to all be about the drag to the line, and I don't think he is. I think Sho Nishimura has absolutely pulled it to perfection there, and Aji keeping it together for a podium. Much needed for the Indonesian after a bad run of form of late, and Noguchi, that precious 4th place, managed to keep it all together on that final lap and take those points.
Yeah, what a ride that was for Haruki Noguchi. He has kept these championship hopes alive heading into the final race that we have tomorrow, and we're waiting now for Bill Van Erde to cross the line. He should be in 11th. It looks like Troy Alberto has crashed out of this race. He has indeed, according to our timing screens. That is a big shame indeed for him. But Bill Van Erde, that will be his gain. Haruki Noguchi talks to Sho Nishimura, his fellow countryman, congratulating him on his first win of the season. How about that for the number 3? Been second 3 out of the last several races. He actually got second first time we came here a few rounds ago. Bill Van Erde, he's coming down the back straight.
Yeah, here he comes, obviously, with so many DNFs and incidents throughout that race. Although he's managed to rejoin, and he will take some valuable points for 11th. He is a little bit off these guys, so still needs these final couple of corners. Just keep it nice and calm, and he'll still have that championship lead. A lot less of a championship lead than going into this first race, but still, nevertheless, he will hang on to it. So it looks like he's safely through there and then just headed for the line. So pretty dramatic day for the Australian.
Yeah, absolutely. Job done as far as the salvage operation is concerned for Bill Van Erde. He will be absolutely pumped full of adrenaline at the moment, thinking about that crash and what could have been. He could have been crowned champion today, but if he is to be crowned champion, he will have to wait for tomorrow. He crosses the line in 11th place, and I believe that will mean the gap is a little bit more. It's on our screens at the moment. 4 points between him and Haruki Noguchi tomorrow. It does look like it is indeed Daniel Sharrell who missed out on the win just at the line. That puts paid to his championship bid for this season. He is 20 points, 27 points adrift from Van Erde on that first spot. So Sho Nishimura did some real damage there at the end of that race.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only did Sharrell just lose that home win, he's also now unfortunately out of that title fight, and it's now those two men. It has been largely in the headlines for much of the season after Aji sort of dropped away, but it's definitely a 2-man battle now, and 4 points means that if they are fighting for the win, whoever takes that win will take the cup.
Yeah, well, it's very, very basic indeed, isn't it? That is the aim of the game. Tomorrow, win and win the championship. We'll have to see what happens there. Cannot wait for that one. It's going to be an absolute barnstormer, as it always is. I did wonder, with the conditions as they are, how much drama and fireworks we would get here in the first race. And as the race just went on, it just got more and more dramatic, as it usually does here in the Asia Talent Cup. Take nothing away from Daniel Sharil. He did all he could to get that win in front of the home fans there, but he'll have to settle for second place here today. 147 points. He should pretty much. Well, will he confirm third spot in the championship? Sho Nishimura could probably actually bag that tomorrow if he has a race like he did today. So many factors that could take place tomorrow as the riders just come round. Mario Aggi there, pause alongside Daniel Sharil. There you have a little high five to say, well done, mate, good job. And it's really good to see Mario Aggi back on the podium here in the Asia Talent Cup. Yeah,
definitely. He had some really great races at the start of the season and just into the middle. And then, like we said, had a bit of a bad run of form of late. So that's really good for him. And he can finish the season on a bit more of a high, hopefully, if he can do something similar tomorrow. But this guy, I think, will be feeling pretty much the opposite of that. Exactly what he didn't want. Seems pretty mad at himself, I think. But, you know, sometimes this can happen in these really treacherous conditions. That there was nothing he could do to try and save that. And yeah, just completely snapped completely.
Absolutely no chance of that whatsoever of Bill Van Erde. He just lost the front end so quickly there, and Haruki Noguchi just got a complete stadium view of that. Just as he tipped it in, too much brake, and he went down, and maybe, well, Haruki Noguchi just thought, wow, that is the championship game on for tomorrow, though. Let's see how well I can finish this race. It really did snap there, getting all sorts of angles from this race. The sound of the bike tumbling through the gravel, not one that you ever like to hear. But what a story this is. Whatever happens tomorrow, the story of the 2018 Asia Talent Cup will go down in the history books, surely as one of the most dramatic in this championship's history. Bill Van Erde come round then. Final corner or so. It's a long older, if it wasn't a long enough race lap, it's an even longer cool down lap for these guys. He just cuts across the grass. Not actually sure where he's going at the moment, Bill Van Erde.
They may be trying to gain a little time back. He was around about 20 seconds off those guys, so
he's trying to work out where to go, bless him.
Yeah, not sure where he's ended up there.
Well, meanwhile, we do have your winner back in Park Ferme, Sho Nishimura, looking almost a little bit surprised with himself. They are not sure whether he would have expected that. He was a pretty some way off the lead coming into sort of the final lap. And what a win that was. They did say he was coming there steadily. There's Mario Aggi, your man, third place in today's race. Any Indonesian fans in the house will be absolutely over the moon with that. And they're all here to see one man as well. Daniel Sharil, second place today.
Yeah, good race from Sharil, although not quite that home glory that maybe he would have been gunning for. But podium at home, great race for him once again.
Yeah, he will be, well, he's always smiling, isn't he, anyways? And can you imagine tomorrow on actual MotoGP race day, if he manages to get a win in front of the home crowd, the roof will lift off. I can absolutely guarantee you that. But the smiley Sharil gets another crack at it. As always, you might even see someone like Hafi Sharin, close friend Adam Norridin as well, back it down in Park Ferme, congratulating him too. But today is all about one man, Sho Nishimura. He got the job done, first win in the Asia Talent Cup this season. Had himself 116 points, moves himself up 25 points at that. And this will be the race-winning move, diving up the inside into turn 15 there. Really cut across. Daniel Sharil gave him absolutely no room to counteract that move at all. And it was all about the run to the line and that drive, and he just had it absolutely dialed all the way there. He's never tucked in tighter in his life.
Yeah, definitely. You could see Sharil aware of what was happening and just trying to cut back inside. You know, the classic Marquez Dovi final corner duels we've had there. I think these guys have watched a few videos of those, but there's just no space there. Nishimura shutting the door to perfection and getting that drive out the final corner. Also staying a little bit off the curbs and the white line there. I don't know if that helped him maybe keep a little bit of traction. You could see Sharil will just not have a wobble, but you could definitely see the effect of him running a little bit wider over those curbs there. So maybe that's why he couldn't quite get on a par with him by the line.
Beautiful sunset we have here in the background. Let's get a look at the final results then. We have Sho Nishimura confirmed as your winner of the penultimate race of the 2018 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. 0.238 seconds back was Daniel Shariel. Mario Aji was third from Haruki Noguchi. Lucky Hendriantia was fifth from Takuma Matsuyama, your double winner from last time out. Tachikon Boasi, Warit Thongnopakun, it was eighth from Agung Fakrul. Ninth place, a solid 45 seconds back. It was a really tough race out there today. Such a long lap really permits itself to these sorts of gaps. And your final two finishes in this race, Senna Agius in 10th place and then 1 minute 22 seconds back after crashing out 11th place, Billy van Erde. Still your championship leader as we head into the final race. And there's also the confirmation Toshiki Senda failed to even start the race after crashing on the sighting lap. Poor Toshiki.
Yeah, it must be a bit of a heartbreaker, like we said. So here we have the championship. So we have Billy van Erde, the same name at the top, but a very different gap to when we begun this race. So Van Erde now 4 points ahead of Noguchi, with Shariel now sadly out of contention for the Cup, 27 points down, and obviously there's 25 points left for a win tomorrow. Nishimura, Aji still keeping that fifth. Matsuyama's moved up one, Boasi down one, Hendriantia up one, and Agung Fakrul in ninth. Bit of a tougher day for him. And Afridza Monanda, the man with the pace but not so many points this season, he's just rounding out that top 10 there.
Yeah, 11th place, Kopchai Seilyu from Putra Senda, Hirama, Thong Nopakun, Agius, Paui and Yamada there. Troy Alberto did his championship campaign no good at all, crashing out there. He's in 19th from Kyuchi, Sainza Wang and Benjamin Baker in 22nd place. Well, the rain has managed to clear away as the action comes to an end. We're waiting for the riders to do the podium ceremony. There's Dorna CEO Carmelo Espeleta shaking the hands of your podium finishers today. Their hats adorned, getting ready to go out, and we will hear the Japanese national anthem above the podium here in Malaysia. So then Mario Aji, Super Mario, takes to the podium. Cheers from the fans who have stuck it out to see the Asia Talent Cup race here. Daniel Shariel, the local rider. And then, of course, your winner, Sho Nishimura, his first win of the season there, jumping onto the top step of the podium. Careful there, sunshine, it's going to be a little bit slippery. We're about to hear the Japanese national anthem once we get these trophies in. There's Mario Aji.
Looks pretty happy with that result, I think, the Indonesian.
I think he'll be relieved to get another podium again, won't he? As will Daniel Shariel in front of the home crowd. And then, of course, the sweetest one of all, your winner, Sho Nishimura.
He put on a real show today.
He did, yeah.
There you go, had to be done.
Now for the race winners' national anthem. Well, the national anthem rings out for Sho Nishimura there. First time he's heard that for him so far this season. Will it be another time? There's only one more opportunity left. Tomorrow, the race will take place at 2:30 p.m. local time. Photos then for the podium finishers just as the Ducati X2 takes off. blaring down the microphones. You can hear it in our headsets. Not sure if you at home watching on can hear it too. Here are the highlights of the race then. And what a dramatic day it was. Eventually, riders, Daniel Sharrell, the number 21, taking off from second on the grid on the run down to turn 1. From the start and finish straight, he bagged another hole shot. 5 hole shots in a row for the Malaysian.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Sharrell is the best starter in any of the 4 categories that are racing here this weekend.
Yeah.
There's 5 in a row, cannot be beaten, and none of them, only today, has been off the front row, I believe, so incredible record for him.
Absolutely astounding form from him. There were some pretty brutal crashes all throughout and some even fiercer action. We actually missed that from Billy Van Erde running off track earlier on, but this was Munandar crashing out of contention for the win. Wasn't the only one to do that though. The number 16 there in 3rd spot, Putra, did also crash out, but not before Haruki Noguchi himself had his own sketchy off-track moment as well. Seemed to be a battle between the Indonesian and the Malaysian. Daniel Sharrell versus Mario Aji for the lead. As we all know, that turned out that was not the case, but Putra there crashing out at high speed in some style. Fortunately, he is up and okay.
I don't know if you saw my face then, but I've forgotten quite how fast that crash had been, and it was quite surprising to watch it again. There's some tough crashes for these guys today, I think, and so many high sides as well, so many of them lost on the exit. Not Van Erde, interestingly. He's the one that lost the front, just completely snapped away from him. Up and okay straight away, and then run into the bike to get that restarted. And Noguchi, by no means job done for him. This huge out-of-seat moment just a little bit later must have given him a bit of a scare.
Yeah, a bit of a scare indeed, and this was the final turn where Sho Nishimura took the win, his first win of the year in the Asia Talent Cup. Will he do it again tomorrow? Who will wrap up the title? Join us then for the finale of the Asia Talent Cup.